They replaced everything in my house. Every curtain, every throw pillow, every trace of who I was, their fingerprints smothered it all. And I let them. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I didn't even raise my voice. But my silence wasn't surrender. It was a plan forming. Let me start at the beginning. My name's Claire. 34. I'm an interior designer by trade and a builder of sanctuaries by instinct. My home isn't just where I sleep, it's where I breathe. Or at least it used to be. When I married Nathan, I thought I was gaining a husband. I didn't realize I was marrying into a collective. A whole family with a singular vision, traditional, conservative, controlling, and they didn't welcome outsiders so much as absorb them, mold them, break them. Nathan had grown up under his mother's eye like a perfectly trained garden vine, climbed when she said climb, bloomed when she watered. And even though he said all the right things when we were dating, "You're the boss of the house, I want you to feel free here," it took just one moment, one remodel, to reveal the truth. It happened 6 months after we moved into our home. A soft, sun-drenched craftsman on the edge of Raleigh. We chose it together, but I saw it first. I was the one who walked through the empty rooms and imagined life in color, cool blues in the bedroom, a mossy green in the den, textured cream in the kitchen to let the light dance naturally. It was mine. Even the mortgage papers said so, just my name. A practical move, I'd told Nathan. His credit wasn't great, and I had the down payment anyway. He didn't argue. Of course he didn't. Not then. I spent months carefully curating the house. I didn't go over budget. I didn't buy designer for the sake of it. I made it ours, just not in the way his family expected. They came to visit one weekend in April. His mother, Joanne, his sister Miranda, and his Aunt Ruth. They arrived with casseroles and polite disapproval. Joanne's eyes flicked over the art on the walls, the muted rug under our dining table, the absence of lace or crosses. Interesting, she'd said, like she'd bitten into something spoiled but didn't want to spit it out. Miranda just muttered, "Feels like a hotel lobby." Ruth sniffed and said, "Doesn't smell like a home." Nathan didn't defend me. He never does. "Claire's going for a more modern vibe," he said, as though I were a passing phase. I should have known something was coming when Joanne pulled him aside that night after dinner. I could hear them whispering in the kitchen. Something about drifting and the feminine touch missing. I stood at the top of the stairs, listening like a stranger in my own home. A week later, Nathan suggested inviting them back. "They want to help," he said. "Maybe they can bring some ideas for the guest room?" I said nothing. Because I already knew. They weren't coming to help. They were coming to conquer. And they did. They came armed with swatches and boxes. I heard the truck before I saw it, an old family van packed with rolled rugs, floral curtains, crucifixes, a deeply offensive amount of burgundy. It wasn't a suggestion. It was a siege. Joanne walked in like she owned the place. Started unrolling a thick oriental carpet over my jute one before she even said hello. "This will ground the space," she announced. Miranda and Ruth followed, carrying throw pillows and faded portraits of stoic ancestors. "Family legacy matters," Ruth said, placing a frame on the mantel, replacing the minimalist sculpture I made by hand. I looked at Nathan. I waited for the flicker of unease, the moment he'd put his foot down. But he just said, "Let's let them work. They mean well." So I did. I let them work. They undid me. Piece by piece. Room by room. They boxed my vases. Folded my throws. Repainted the warm white walls with yellow-toned beige like we lived inside a teeth-whitening commercial. They hung a sign above the kitchen sink that read, "God bless this mess," and I almost laughed at the irony. But I didn't stop them. I nodded. I smiled. I thanked them for their help. And when they left, full of smug satisfaction and self-congratulation, I closed the front door, walked to my studio, and locked it. I didn't cry. I sketched. A new plan. A better one. They had erased me from my home, but I was going to erase them back. Not with drama. Not with yelling. No, this was going to be a clean, surgical cut. The kind you don't feel until it's already too late. Friday. 2 a.m. That was the moment everything changed. My storage unit had been rented 3 days earlier. I picked the facility 2 towns over, quiet, unassuming, secure. I paid cash. No paper trail. Just me, a key, and the space to reclaim what they tried to take. I called in 3 favors. My friend Rowan brought his van. My old college roommate, Nina, strong as hell and quietly ruthless, helped lift every heirloom monstrosity out of my home. My neighbor, Jorge, owed me after I helped his wife stage their house for resale. He brought coffee and didn't ask questions. We worked in the dark, quiet, surgical. By dawn, everything his family had brought into my house was gone. The crucifixes, the floral couches, the rugs that reeked of mildew and sanctimony, the brass sconces, the weird angel figurines that Miranda insisted blessed the energy flow. Gone. In their place? Nothing yet. Just blank walls and space to breathe. It was like exhaling after holding my breath for 6 months. I didn't replace anything. Not yet. I wanted them to see the absence first. That morning, I made myself a cup of coffee and sat barefoot in the living room. Sunlight poured across the floors. No thick drapes to block it. No dusty antique mirror reflecting a version of me I didn't recognize. Just space. Empty, honest, mine. I was still sitting there when Nathan came downstairs. He looked around, blinking like he'd walked onto the wrong set. He gestured around. What happened? I took a sip of coffee. I restored balance. He laughed, confused. Wait, you took everything out? I tilted my head. No. I removed what didn't belong. There's a difference. He rubbed the back of his neck. Claire, come on. You didn't even tell me. And you didn't tell me your mother was planning to bring her entire living room, I said, my voice steady. So I figured we were past the point of courtesy. He didn't respond. Just stood there, jaw tight. Processing. At exactly 10 a.m., the doorbell rang. Right on schedule. Joanne. Miranda. Ruth. They walked in like generals returning to base. But this time, the battlefield was clean. I stood. Didn't say a word. Just watched. Joanne's eyes darted around the room like a hawk looking for prey. Where is everything? She asked, her voice wobbling somewhere between offense and panic. Gone, I said simply. Miranda gasped. Ruth clutched her pearls like I'd set the house on fire. You threw out our things? Joanne demanded. I walked to the counter and picked up the deed. Held it between my fingers like a verdict. This is my house, I said. I own it. Every nail. Every tile. Every breath of space. You don't get to just. I do, I cut in. Calm. Measured. Because you made it clear, Joanne. You said it to my face, a wife follows her husband's family style. She opened her mouth to object, but I wasn't done. I followed your style, once. For exactly 1 weekend. And that was my mistake. Nathan stepped in, finally, arms crossed. You could have told me, Claire. You didn't have to ambush everyone. No, I said. That's exactly what I had to do. Because every time I told you how I felt, you shrugged. You looked the other way. You said it wasn't worth a fight. Joanne glared. You're being disrespectful. Funny, I said. I was just thinking the same thing about you. The room chilled. The air went stiff. Miranda mumbled something to Ruth. Ruth shot back with a whisper about how women like me never last. I ignored it. Because then Joanne said the quiet part out loud. You're temporary, she said. Just like that. You think this house makes you important? She continued, voice rising. You're just the woman Nathan married. This family? This legacy? That's permanent. Nathan didn't correct her. And that was all I needed. I turned to him. Do you agree? He blinked. What? Do you think I'm temporary? He looked between his mother and me. Claire, I think you're blowing this out of proportion. And there it was. Not I love you. Just that old, hollow phrase, blowing it out of proportion. I exhaled. Finally. The truth had arrived, even if he didn't mean to give it. I see, I said. Joanne smirked like she'd won something. Ruth adjusted her scarf. Miranda started scrolling through her phone like I wasn't worth the effort. And then I smiled. Not bitter. Not sarcastic. Peaceful. Good, I said. Then we're all on the same page. I walked past them. Down the hall. Into my studio. Where I picked up the envelope I'd prepared the night before. Inside it, a printed list of the furniture I was repossessing. Receipts. Photos. A copy of the deed. And divorce papers, and signed, but notarized. When I came back, I handed it to Nathan. I won't fight, I said. I won't scream. But I will not live in a house where I'm a guest in my own skin. He stared at the envelope, then at me. Claire, come on. This is crazy. No, I said. This is clarity. Then I walked upstairs. I gave them 15 minutes to leave. When I came back down, they were gone. Even Nathan. The house was silent again. Still. But this time it didn't feel empty. It felt like mine. And that? That was just the beginning. After they left, I stood alone in the center of my living room, bare feet against the hardwood floor I'd chosen, sun slicing across the coffee table I'd sanded and stained myself, and I felt it for the first time in months. Stillness. No tension stretching the air like invisible wires. No eyes tracking my choices. No one calling my name with expectation behind it. Just me. My home. My skin. Mine. That night, I poured a glass of wine and sat on the porch until the sky went velvet black. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just let the silence settle inside me. And then, I started again. The next morning, I reopened my design studio. Not just the door, the entire concept of it. For months I'd been working less, dulling my instincts to make space for someone else's traditions. Nathan had called it compromise. I now understood what it really was, quiet erasure. No more. I redid my portfolio. Took down the safe beige living rooms and updated it with color. With edge. With personality. My personality. The kind of work I used to do when I still had a spine and a soul. Then I contacted clients I'd let go during the early months of the marriage. Not with apologies, but with intention. I told them I was back, better, braver. Most of them said yes. One woman, in particular, Hannah Calloway, owner of 3 boutiques in Asheville, said, "I was hoping you'd figure it out." That stopped me. Figure what out? That the person you were pretending to be wasn't you, she said. Your work used to have bite. I missed your bite. So I designed again. I poured myself into it. And something unexpected happened. My house, my real house, started blooming with me. New light fixtures. New textiles. A color palette I used to be scared to love, stormy grays, indigo blue, brushed gold. A blend of sharp and soft. Gutsy but graceful. I was designing not just rooms, but a new life. Nathan emailed once. 2 weeks after they left. The subject line was, "We should talk." The body just said, "Are you really doing this?" I deleted it without opening the attachment. Joanne sent a handwritten note. Imperfect, looping cursive. "You've embarrassed this family enough. Walk away quietly before it gets worse." I laughed. Out loud. Alone in my kitchen, holding that note like it was a joke written in perfume. "You don't scare women like me, Joanne. You just make us focused." I framed the note and hung it in the guest bathroom, right across from the mirror. Let it stare itself down. By the 4th week, I was sleeping better. Deeper. My skin looked clearer. My laughter came easier. I ran into Nathan at the hardware store. He looked smaller. He was holding a paint sample, beige, of course. He didn't recognize me at first. My hair was up, my face was calm. Not angry. Not cold. Just, done. "Claire," he said. "Hey." I nodded. He gestured toward the color sample. "Just trying to fix up the guest room at my mom's. Since, you know." "Yeah," I said. "Then, beige?" He smirked, like he wanted to share the joke. "Yeah. You know them." I tilted my head. "I do. Unfortunately." There was a pause. Then he said, "I miss the way the house used to feel." That surprised me. "Before or after your family hijacked it?" He didn't answer. So I did. "I miss the version of you who would have stopped them." His eyes dropped. "That version didn't know how." "Well," I said. "Now you do. You just chose not to." He nodded slowly. "You look good." "I am good." Another pause. "I guess this is it, then." I smiled gently. "This was it the second you called me temporary." He didn't fight it. Didn't beg. Just walked away, beige in hand. As I left the store, I passed a couple looking at tile samples, arguing in the way new couples do, with affection underneath the irritation. I used to think that's what Nathan and I had. Now I knew the difference. I had confused proximity with partnership. That night, I lit a single candle in the living room, sat cross-legged on the rug, and wrote down 3 words in a notebook. Build. Don't beg. It became my mantra. I carved it into the underside of a shelf, wrote it on the inside cover of every design contract I signed, whispered it to myself when doubt crept in like a draft. Because this was no longer about revenge. This was about restoration. 3 months later, the house finally felt whole. It wasn't just the furniture. It wasn't the curtains I'd stitched by hand, or the wall of built-in shelves I designed over a rainy weekend with a cup of Earl Grey balanced on a tape measure. It wasn't even the new lighting or the slate blue front door I painted like a statement. It was the stillness inside me. A quiet. A conviction. A knowing. I had no illusions they were done with me. People like Joanne and Miranda don't back down, they retreat, reload, and look for another angle. I knew this. So I sealed every one. First, the locks. Changed them all. Deadbolts. Security system. Cameras, not for surveillance, but for peace of mind. Then, I closed the joint account Nathan and I never used but he always kept just in case. I left him a check for his half of the original move-in costs, dated, signed, final. No more ties. No more shared air. One by one, I also sent back the things they had gifted me. Not with bitterness. Not with spite. Just in silence. A box for each of them. To Miranda, the pastel dishware she insisted looked classier than my ceramics. To Ruth, the hand-sewn Bible verse pillow. To Joanne, the silver-plated candlesticks and a note that read, "Return to sender. House no longer accepting relics." I signed it, Claire Whitman. Sole owner. Nathan showed up again in late June. This time unannounced. I saw his car from the window and didn't flinch. I didn't open the door. I didn't even stand. He rang the bell once. Twice. Then he left. The next day, I received an envelope. No return address. Inside, a letter, scribbled and rambling. He said he was sorry. That he'd let them get too deep. That he didn't realize what it meant to let a woman make a home, not just decorate a house. He wrote, "You were right. It was always yours. Not just the deed. The peace. The sense of self. I never had it. You did." I didn't reply. Because here's the truth no one tells you about letting go. There is no parade. No drumroll. No moment where you feel completely vindicated. There's just the soft hum of your own thoughts finally returning to you. And the beauty of that? It's quiet. It's private. And it's sacred. I redesigned the guest room into a studio nook, full-spectrum lighting, floor-to-ceiling pinboard, shelves stacked with fabric swatches and worn design books with coffee stains on the corners. Every morning, I light a candle. Just one. Same scent, bergamot and cedar. And I work. I design homes for women clawing their way back to themselves. Women recovering from marriages that bruised their sense of place. Women who say, "I just want it to feel like mine again." And I say, I know. Because this isn't just a story about a bad mother-in-law or a passive husband. This is a story about power. About betrayal. About a woman who learned that silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. And sometimes the cleanest way to win is to let them think they conquered you. Then quietly remove every trace of them while they're still gloating in your living room. So yes, they replaced everything in my house. And then? I cut them out of it. Not with fire. Not with screaming. But with keys changed, curtains drawn, and a soul so steady they'll never get close again. And that's how I reclaimed my home. And myself.